I'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for your voice in my headset on friendship. And we're going to dive right in. Nora, what you got?
Um, Not you seem to have a bunch of stuff up that you wanted to cover. Um, and I had a question based off of the other meeting we just had, but I don't really know that it relates to this.
It's whatever.
We were just talking about like families where the kids kind of support the family
Yeah, financially.
financially. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I was first exposed to it, I'm like, wow, that's so. If you're new to that concept, in certain communities, in certain communities, like over in Pakistan, the kids full-time work 50, 80, 90% of what they make goes into the family. And so um there's a part of me that's jealous because I'm like, I didn't know you could do that. Man, that would have made my life a lot easier. Like for sure. Um and so in northern Indiana, that happens a lot in the Amish community, and the kids can be making 50, 60, 70, $100,000 a year. Um, so there's a part of me that says, yeah, kids that are 18, 19, maybe 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, yeah, they shouldn't have that kind of money. Like they just shouldn't. It just is invites all kinds of trouble and all kinds of stuff. So from that perspective, I would say yes. I mean, in the old communities, um, 100 years ago, like the kids all worked on the farm. Everybody contributed to, the thing. So why should it be any different? And we built America based on that. So there's a part of me, Nora, that says I think it's a good thing that the kids don't get all the money when you're making that kind of money. That's just crazy. That's just they don't understand the value of money. They just don't. It's so easy. It's like you go in, you work 6 hours, and you make that kind of money. So from my perspective, I think that's good that the money goes to the family. I think it's bad. I think it can be bad because the kids aren't really motivated. They're not really motivated per se to make money because they don't get to keep most of it. Like,
Yeah, because
and
I mean, like my family, it was like, being the youngest. Um, like when I first started my job, I got to keep 10% of my paycheck. And
and you were 14, right?
yeah, and it's like, you know, I think I understand part of it and then the other part I don't, because it's like, okay, yeah, maybe you shouldn't at, a young age have, that kind of money. But from my perspective, I've always thought, if my kids at a young age have a job and, they work and whatever, like I'm gonna create a savings account for them or have them invest it into something to where that money is not just available for them to spend. So you save it up or you invest it in something that's going to give you money back. Um, but versus like it having to be their responsibility to support my family.
Right,
So it's like, because then it was like, well, we have 10 kids, and it's like, okay, but that's not us kids' fault. So
right,
then when we are, old enough to get married, then we're struggling financially.
right. That's
So it's
see,
just like this
yeah,
domino effect of
that's that's
everybody's struggling.
right. That's the challenge of it. So I made a lot of money when I was in high school. not because I made a lot of money. It's just I had 2 full-time jobs in the summer and, and 5 part-time jobs in the summer and 7 part-time jobs during the school year. Like I got out at noon on a work release when I was in high school. And I worked, from, 12:30, 1 o'clock until 4 o'clock at one job. And then I went from one job to another job and I worked then too. And then I did another one at weekends. Like I just worked all the time. But my parents never took money. But when I was 16, 15, I think I was 15, my dad said, I think it would be good for you boys to start paying rent, get disciplined in it. And I'm like, that sounded fair to me. I don't remember what we started at, maybe $25. Now, granted, this was a few decades ago. So $25 is not, but it wasn't a lot. I didn't think it was a lot. We bumped it up to 50 maybe. And so my dad said it once and I just did it. I just said, hey, Vern, my older brother, I'm like, hey, this is kind of fair. But my parents weren't dependent. I mean, it wasn't like normal rent. It probably didn't even cover our food. And so when you say, well, that's what they did growing up, and that's what their parents did, and their parents did, their parents did, and stuff. And so, if they help their parents, well, why wouldn't you help your parents? And it's like, it's others have asked me in the Amish, what do I think about it? And you know, yeah, I would tend to be more like, but you weren't working in the factory.
Right, which I mean, so I probably got paid like around $300 every 2 weeks.
you know,
So
so
it's like, but then when I turned 16, and I did that for, a couple years to where I did that. And then when I turned 16, and then it's like, well, you have to pay for all your clothes and your shoes and all that kind of stuff now. And then it's like, okay, how am I like with 10% of my paycheck? Like,
wow,
and it's just like I'm not. And what made it worse in my family too was that the boys didn't do it, but the girls had to. And I'm
wow,
like, well, if that's the case, then
wow,
I'm just gonna pay for all my stuff and keep my paycheck. Like, which
right,
I then moved out, but it's
right,
not like you don't. I don't know. Like I don't think you learn how to manage your money
right.
that well, because then it's like your parents pay for some of your stuff because you're giving all your money home, and it's just like, I don't know. I just don't think that it sets up the kids very well, because then it's like they're just dependent on their kids to pay for their stuff. Like, just wait until their kids are old enough to get a job so that they can pay for,
Yeah.
their debts. And it's like, I don't.
Yeah, I would tend to I wouldn't judge somebody, but I would be more on the line like it to me just be hard to take my kids' money. I'm like it's just hard. But if that's what you grew up in and that's what you did with your parents and it's just kind of tradition, it's different, but I would tend to agree I would tend to agree with you on it. And so, um, when I look at us having 7 kids, man, I'd have loved to go ahead. I mean, man, if I could have just gotten $1,000 out of each of the four oldest one, whoa, a month, man, that'd have made all the difference in the world. Like that would have made much less 2, 3, 4, 5,000 a month. My gracious. Like, um, so yeah, yeah, great question. Rosanna, is it Rosanna that's on?
Yes, yes.
What do you have to cover today?
I'm not sure. Am I on the friendship call?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay. My time zones are all messed up. So I saw a bunch of stuff that was going through on the friendship call. You were talking about different things that you were going to discuss, and I was kind of curious. I'm not sure how much I can be on, but I know that sometimes I struggle with the significant conversations with people. I just don't know how to start them.
Right. And that's how you can start them. Say, I don't know how to start it, and I don't feel comfortable, and I don't know that I'm very good at it having significant conversations. But I'd like to have deep relationships or deeper relationships. I'd like to have deeper relationships, and I don't know that I know how to do that. Could you help me?
Well, that's a good start.
Right?
He's by the Bighorn Mountain.
Yeah. So, is Angela there?
She is. We are standing beside the Grand Canyon right now.
Nice.
Yeah. I am on headset.
Oh, of course.
Is there anything she would like to accomplish?
I will check just a second. She doesn't think she has anything right now.
Okay. So yeah, you can stay on as long as you can stay on. So, so when trauma gets triggered, you don't act your age, you act the age your wound was created. And so, this is deeply profound to me. And
What
so,
makes it so profound?
well, it just explains people why they act like kids. They don't get what they want. They have drama. They go ahead and, they get angry. They go ahead and do whatever. They're just like children. It's just like you're acting like a child, for crying out loud. Because what? You didn't get what you wanted? What? What? Because somebody said something you didn't like? Like, really? Like, I can see how you don't want to be friends with somebody if they sexually abuse you. I can see how if they physically abuse you, you don't want to be friends with them. You don't want to be around them. I can see that. Emotional abuse, I would say, I don't know. To me, I get it. I get it. You can't be emotionally abused unless you're weaker than the other person emotionally. You just can't. Like, you can't. You just can't. So if you're being abused by somebody emotionally, well, the reason you're being abused is you're weaker than they are, which is fine. Just acknowledge you're weaker than they are emotionally. You just are. And so it explains everything to me. It's like, okay, so, when trauma gets triggered, okay, you go back to that age. So think of it this way. Your mind is a house. Go all the way to the bottom. And it says, finally start growing up. Like, grow up. Like, just grow up. Like Elaine and Nora and Anita have challenged me to just rip the Band-Aid off. How's that going for you, Mark? Not terrible. There's been a couple breakthroughs, I think, where I'm like, man, am I glad I just ripped the Band-Aid off? It seemed, it was a little dicey. Glad all three of them were there. And so it says, and when you stop acting like that entire room doesn't exist, you take back the entire house. You take the entire house back. So what it's saying, I think, I'd love to know who wrote this. This is crazy. So what it's saying, I think, is you lose one room to the house, you lose the whole house. The whole house is gone. You're going to lose it. Like, you can't go ahead. Like, a pipe is only chain is only as strong as its weakest link. A chain is only as strong as weakest link. You can't strengthen the other link. You're only going to be as strong as your weakest. You can't grow. And so, so something happened in that room. So what you did is you turned off the light and shut the door. And you kept on living in the rest of the house. Makes sense. It's only one room. But that room doesn't disappear. It just waits. So I changed this here. I changed this here. I'm not acknowledging I'm changing it. And I don't know who the author is, but I think it's better. My way. I'm not saying it is. I just say I think it is. I don't even know where to go here.
I think the word strong is best versus safe.
I don't know. It
Just
seems to
because
me
you
that
feel safe.
it works. And so for me, maybe it doesn't work for you. So I'm not eliminating. I'm just doing. I think something enters your mind. I don't think it enters your mind. I don't think it does. I think when a trigger happens, there's no mental. It's like a ball is thrown at you. You don't think, I wonder if I should put my hands up. It's a reflex. It's trauma. And so I don't know, Nora, if you got a chance to watch the addicted one or the alcoholic one.
I have not.
Okay. So in that one, they talk about the little brain and the big brain. Fascinating. I mean, it's just fascinating. And so the little brain, and this is medical, this is brain science. The little brain is what happens. So I don't like to be in closed, like claustrophobic. I don't like to be in small rooms, or I don't like to be like but Roseanne is more claustrophobic than I am. Like me being tied up, I don't think that would be a big issue. Like, okay. Like I wouldn't go crazy. So a needle, though, a needle, that is an issue for me. I have a hard time with needles. So again, this is the star here represents Mark. So Mark says you have a feeling. Earlier today, when we were talking about this, Nora, I think it was Nora or Elaine or both of them said, well, it's not really a feeling. Okay, what is it then? So I don't know if you've thought more about that, if you have something better than feeling, Nora.
I don't know. I remember the conversation. I don't remember like the context of it.
See, I think feeling happens before the brain kicks in. The feeling is an instant. It's instant. This is what I feel. And so the feeling, and when the feeling hits, then the brain is supposed to kick in and say, I need to move my hand. It's burning. Right.
Oh, now I remember. So I want like with the story that I had told then too, like I think it was the body reacted due to the trauma when the feeling that the trauma had brought wasn't even there. So it's like the person physically couldn't do anything about it. It was just the body was rejecting it.
See,
And like there was nothing that she could do about it.
Right. I think there's nothing she could do because of mentally. There wasn't anything physically. The physical was controlled by the mental. And the doctor had seen this before. And so the doctor knew. So at that time, in that intense thing, you couldn't really have therapy. Like, that's going to happen. And so the doctor had experienced this before. I've never heard of such a thing ever in my life, ever. I mean, it's never. And I've heard it. That is so fascinating. So the doctor, the doctor knew what the cause was. And so the body wouldn't allow it because the mind hadn't healed from it.
Yeah, I don't know that for a fact because this girl is like, I would have thought if anybody, I don't know,
Because I don't know
could
how,
move past that, it would have been her. Like, she is so resilient and just,
yeah. Well, again, that, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how something could have happened abuse wise that would have prevented the body from doing that. I mean, it's possible, but I don't think so because the doctor didn't know, didn't say, oh, this is what happened. The doctor said, did this happen? And they said, yes. And the doctor's like, you're going to have to do this. You have to. Why? Because he or she, the doctor, faced this before. And so it's interesting because one of our daughters, we were going to the hospital. So she had a friend, a guy friend, who had tried to commit suicide, and he was in the hospital. And one of our daughters and her friend, and I was driving them to the hospital, and her friend was all freaking out and said, it's like I'm afraid I'm going to have a panic attack. I'm afraid this, and I don't think the daughter would mind me mentioning who she was, and so it was Melissa, and so I said to Melissa's friend, she was maybe 16, 17, I don't know, something like that. I said to Melissa's friend, I said, oh, I know how to stop panic attacks. And she's like, you do? And Melissa's like, rolls her eyes, and he doesn't. He doesn't. No, he doesn't. Well, but that's right. That's just supportive women in your life, right? I mean, that's how women support you. And I said, no, I can do that. I can do that. And she's like, how? I said, show me a panic attack now. She's like, you can't do that. I'm like, exactly. So what people do is they run away from the panic, and the panic pursues them until it gets them, and then they can't control it. And she didn't have a panic attack. So obviously, when you go ahead and help a woman, go ahead and prevent something from happening, obviously, what's a woman going to do?
thank you.
I mean, you'd think, right? I mean, that would be a good womanly thing to do. I mean, Melissa, her friend would say, wow, Mr. Boersma, thank you so much for helping me not have a panic attack. That was just amazing. Thank you so much. So much. Oh, and Melissa would be like, oh, Dad, you're just amazing. Oh my goodness, you're amazing. Thank you. You'd think that's what women did, but that's not what they did. What did they do? Nothing.
Oh, Dad.
Oh, nothing. There was nothing. There's no acknowledgement. There's no nothing. Fast forward 10 years. Fast forward 10 years, and I'm sitting on my desk in my office, and my son, Tim, comes in to the room and sits at my leather couch in my office. He's like, Dad, I got my phone back from the police. So I think it was 2 or 3 months before, his brother committed suicide right in front of him, 5 feet away, rifle shot to the head. Messy. I mean, it's not like another bullet. No, it's like just so he sees all of that. He experiences all of that. And I'm like, okay. He's like, I want to go ahead and I wanted to have my phone open it up with you around. I'm like, okay, copy that. And for those that don't know me, I'm a visual. So if somebody says something, I can visualize it. It's like I'm there. And so I'm not real excited about this. I did go into the room where he committed suicide. His body was not there, but I mean, parts of his body were. Sorry. Oops, sorry. This is not child's. This is not a child's one. This is maybe a rated R. And so I could literally, so again, if you need to leave, just warning, it's going to get messier probably. So I go ahead and I went into shock when I had blood taken from me. I was there for all of the births, but didn't see anything. I saw a C-section on a movie and had to walk out of the movie because I was close to fainting. When Roseanne and I were in college and we were 21 and we were in a health class, and I didn't even see the movie. All I did is hear the movie, and I had to leave the class, and I walked 10 feet out and I fainted. So this is real stuff. This is real. This is not contrived. So I go into the room where he died, and I can literally see parts of his skull like on it. I can see the blood on the walls and on the ceilings. But I went in there to toughen up my mind to go ahead and say, I want to be there for my son, Tim, because he was there. And yeah, it was pretty messy, hard. I could smell, I mean, everything. It was crazy. But I'm like, it's nothing compared to what he's been through. Like nothing. So he's sitting on the couch in my office. And so they were texting back and forth. So they were in a fight. And all of a sudden, Tim started reading the text that his brother had sent right before his brother died. These are the last words before his brother dies. And he starts convulsing. He starts shaking and crying and convulsing. So, naturally, me being a good father, what do I do?
Bring him out.
How do I do that?
Not sure.
So he's on the couch, so he's just convulsing. He's not like on a bridge or something. He's not outside. He's not going to fall and hurt himself. So he's on the couch, but he's convulsing. So I go over and sit by him. And then I hold him. And then I put my hand on his neck. And then he calms down. He's totally calms down, just total peace. Then he says to me, Dad, you want to read the text? No, I don't. I didn't say that. I'm like, no, I don't. Because my son, he was texting these things when it happened. Like these are the last words out of my son's mind, his fingers. No, I don't want to go ahead. I do not want to go. No. I'm like, everything inside of me is screaming. This is why people that talk about trauma and triggers, like Amy, it was funny on the call she's like, I think people use triggers. Like, right? You want a trigger? You want to be triggered? I'll trigger you something. Trigger you this, trigger you that. You want triggers? I'll show you triggers. So again, being a supportive dad, what do? I'm like, sure. Sure. What does he do? He gives them to me and I start reading. Holy cow. So what happens to me? I start crying and convulsing. I'm in a safe place. And so I'm sitting on the couch and I start, you know, I start convulsing, crying. I'm out of control. What does Tim do?
Just for help?
No, he's like, Dad, you're having a panic attack. Stop it. And what do?
You stop it.
Yep. What does he do?
I'm not sure.
He starts laughing. He's like, dang, Dad, that was good. Holy cow. Like, wow. Like, wow. Wow, Dad. His mind was blowing. He's like, can you teach me how to do that, Dad? So I made sure I was in a safe place. I knew it was going to be brutal. I had an idea of what the texts were, but reading them and visualizing him still being alive. And I mean, even 6 years later, there's still. So, can I have empathy for people because I heal? And can people who don't heal, they don't have empathy? It's all about themselves. Like it's just crazy. It's just like, but is that what happens when people don't heal? They cannot feel anybody else's pain. All they do is feel their own and other people who had the same type of pain. Like it's just crazy. And so we're working on this and making some progress. And so, so you go up a dimension, and it's fascinating how people responded to me, people who knew me, like Tom Coons. I don't think they respond to most people like they did me. Tom's like, Mark, you're going to do fine because I know who you are. There's, you're going to be good. And Ken Mucci, he said to me, he says, Mark, people shouldn't be giving you sympathy. They should be asking you how you think. But see, people don't want to think like I think because they don't want to heal. Why is that, Mark? Because they get addicted to the trauma, the drama, and the attention. So how do you make a jump to the next dimension? You know, we're working on that. Then you got to ratchet it in. Oh, it doesn't, because if you don't ratchet it in, if you don't ratchet it in, then what happens is you slide back down. And so we're working on this now. This here, there's something in here. I don't know what it is, but there's something in there. And so I'm going back through. I'm going back through all my journals, from years ago before Jonathan died. And I'm like, I wonder if there's something in here that I discovered far before his death that gives me the secret. And it's not just the death, it's like there's something there's something invisible in there that's going on. Urgh. Ooh. Here, I don't know that either of you have seen this. So, do you guys know anything about fiber optics?
Not really.
So, it's the coolest thing. It's glass. It's glass. So it's a glass wire. And so before it was copper. And you could put certain number of phone through, phone calls through a copper wire, I guess. Fiber optics changed everything. And so it's light. It's all light that's traveling through these fiber optics. It's the coolest thing in the world. And so once they laid all the fiber optics down and then bandwidth, and then they were going to have to, and this is millions, I mean, tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. They'd have to put new stuff down. And some programmer went ahead and said, I wonder if there's a way we could program it to make it work better. And he did it at the front of the cable and at the end, and it doubled all of its bandwidth, just programming. Did he get paid anything for that? Maybe not. So anyways, years ago, um, I'm looking at this, so you've got frequency here. The higher you go in the dimension, the higher the frequency. And I'm like, there's this line here. What is that line? And so what happened is I took that line and I took it out and then I sliced it like when you look in grade school or high school or whenever, you take a flower stem of a flower and you go ahead and slice it and then you put it under a magnifying glass. Have either of you ever done that?
No.
It's like the coolest thing. Like you'd never think of the stem. Like the stem, it takes the nutrients up to the flower. And so there's something in there. And so years ago, and so these are 7 T's. There were 5 at the time: time, talents, treasure, trust, truth, temple, and thought. Looks like a flower here underneath the stem that's going up. And then the 4 H's: hope, head, heart, hands, and helping other people. Tom says you can't give something to somebody else that you don't first have yourself. So this is at least 10 years old. That gap is there, but I never realized. I realized that there's something in here that causes somebody to go through, but there's this gap here and it's invisible, but there's something going on in the subatomic world mentally. So yeah, so 14 years ago. So 14 years ago, I was working on this.
Nice.
Right? But I didn't figure it out. Stupid thing.
Ooh, what's your skeleton about?
So this is the frequency here. The low frequency is like a radio wave. And so you can't see it by the naked eye, but you can see it. I don't know. You can somehow see it. So like the radio waves, that moves the radio, the things that move the radio, that's what this looks like here. So the radio waves are far apart. But when you get into the X-ray, what they do is they just compress it. They compress it down. And so the higher the frequency, the more it goes through dense objects. So radio waves don't go through the skin and see the bone. But the X-ray, it's the same. It's just waves. Like a radio wave is like the X-ray is, my understanding is the X-ray is just a radio wave. Like it's just wave. It's wavelengths and it's compressed down. And so the higher, the tighter the radio wave, the tighter the wave is, the more it goes through dense objects. That's why you can see, this is why you can see the bones to see if something's broken. And the gamma ray is even more. So people who are high frequency, People who are high frequency, people don't like them because they see stuff that nobody else can see. So low frequency, you tell people there's nothing, you explain it. This is science. Like, this is not Mark, it's just science. Like, it's just science. And so, people like radio waves. That's like the amiable. So if you're a higher frequency, you have easier time going to low frequency. Low frequency, sometimes they can't go to high frequency. They just can't. They cannot do it. High frequencies, when you have to come down to low frequency, I'm not saying it'll kill you, but man, is it painful. So it's addictive to have deep conversations. Once you experience deep conversations, it's like you never want to go back. You just don't, because it's so exhilarating. So the Bible says the truth will set you free. What does it mean? It means that if we don't see the truth, we're enslaved. People want to be enslaved. They do. They don't think they do, but they do. We as human beings want to be enslaved. Why? Because then we don't have to work, because then we don't have to take ownership, because, then we can feel victims, and then we can feel entitled. We can do all of this. Like, so it connects back into the crab in the bucket. So all these crabs in this bucket, they're all radio waves. This goes back to Bonhoeffer's The Theory of Stupidity. Because all these crabs think, well, this is all that there is in life. One crab crawls out, all the other crabs pull them back in. This was discovered in the Lakota Indian Reservation in South Dakota, poorest county in all the country, in all the U.S. But when I went over to Russia with Ginger Ann, that was 27 years ago. I saw the pattern between the two. So Ginger and I went over to Russia, and I'm like, man, this is the country that we were afraid of? My gracious, there's so much poverty over there, so much alcoholism over there. It is insane. So the person who's escaped the crab that's escaping the bucket, their responsibility is not to go ahead and save all the crabs in the bucket. The responsibility, I believe, is to save two other crabs, and then get those two other crabs to save two other crabs. But if you try to save them, then all the crabs are going to kill you, because especially the leaders of the crabs, because the leaders, they get their power from all the crabs enslaved. You see this in certain communities.
What about if you just get everybody to, rock the bucket and just tip it over, and then everybody goes out? And then if they want to leave, they can leave, and if they don't want to leave, they can just stay in the bucket then.
Well, I've never had that question, but I know the answer. That won't work, because you got to go ahead and get out of the bucket. You got to go ahead and be strong enough, because living outside the bucket is actually more dangerous than in the bucket. Maybe. But if the crabs that get out of the bucket,
if they would all stick together, they could fight whatever, they come across.
Well, the challenge is that they don't want to do, the crabs in the bucket like their life. They like, it's pretty easy, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. They don't have to take risks. They don't have to learn anything. They just, it's pretty safe. You might be like, but don't crabs in the bucket, isn't it boiling? Don't they get eaten? Maybe. Is that what the Bible is saying, where the path to heaven is very narrow, the path to destruction is very wide? I've been thinking about that lately a lot.
What do you think that means?
I'm not. That I'm like all the crabs in the bucket think they're going to heaven. Maybe not.
Because it's
Maybe.
easy.
Well, it's like, yeah, because you don't rock the boat. That's why they say if you start rocking the boat, they're gonna kill you. They did Jesus. Jeepers. Like, yep, we got to kill him. Like I was raised Baptist. They kicked me out. Why? Because I dared challenge people in authority. My brother and the pastor, same age as I am, like we have kind of equal standing here from a, wisdom and whatever perspective. I have faithfully served you, done what you did, submitted to you for years until, I don't know, it's too much. See, this here is interesting. Again, this was written 14 years ago. If we do the opposite of what we think we should do, we make a dimensional jump. If we do what feels we should do, feeling, that's the feeling. We do what we feel we should do, and we're going down. I'm not saying it's true. It's just like, it's interesting to look back and say, maybe I didn't realize the significance. This went longer. Thanks for sticking with me. I'm trying to find, I think I'm going to need a new model. I hope I don't. I don't want a new model. But I wonder, this model's out here and it's just sitting there doing nothing. Like it just really. Nora, what you thinking?
I don't know. I mean, I've often thought about the wide and the narrow road too.
Right?
Like, I think most of it's going to feel lonely because there's not a lot of people on it.
Right. Yeah, my 27-year-old son, he came over today and we talked and then we went on a walk. He's like, I feel lonely, Dad. I'm like, right? I get you, buddy. Yeah. Elaine, any other thoughts you have?
Well, the curvy line reminds me of the way to heaven, like the description.
Right? So this is right here. This is what I'm looking. This is what I'm pursuing. Right here. What happens here? What happens here? So for years, there's something when I have a perception that somebody's locked. Oh, we were talking about that earlier, Nora, weren't we? Like I have two responses when I feel somebody's locked. One is I just like, whatever, and I just, yeah, just done. Okay. Or the second is I'll apply some dynamite to that bad boy. So, the theory of stupid, and I didn't learn about that one until, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago. So this other stuff was before that. So when Bonhoeffer says you can't reason with them, like you can't, like they're a bunch of slogans. Like it's like they start saying the same thing over and over again to you. It's like, okay, so you can't reason with them. You can't rationalize things. You can't look at data. They're just locked. But now just recently I've wondered if they're not locked, I wonder if they're stuck.
So did any of Stan's stuff help you with the gap?
Not so much. I mean, it was really interesting for sure. Do you see something there? I mean, your stuff, your stuff, your response, you and his interaction, it was interesting. Yours and his interaction was really interesting. So I think I understand what you're both saying.
What was interesting about it?
The ability to be laser focused and have everything else 7,000 RPM is what you're talking about, really, I think. Like zero distractions.
Yeah.
And then, sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah, I mean, it is, and it's like, it's where most people would freeze. You just get this clarity and you just lock in. And it's like you have to fight everything else, like with the senses and stuff. Like you have to fight all that. You have to first acknowledge it's there and then counteract it and like go against everything that seems
Right.
right. And just like
Right.
it's like you're feeling one thing, but you have to be able
Right.
to do the opposite of that feeling.
Yep. And Stan's the one that first introduced me to the Mach 1. Like soon after I went ahead and, realized, so I'm going to say yes to everything. That seems like that's not going to go good, Mark. Your marriage and everything's going to crash and burn. I'm like, what do I've got to lose? And so I did totally counterintuitive and said yes to everything. And then all of a sudden, all my time opened up because it forced me to think about time in a different way. I could no longer think about time. So I literally contemplated and said, I could lose my wife, my marriage, my kids. I could lose my business. I could lose everything. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. And so it happened. And I'm like, for 3 months, I didn't even realize what happened. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start dating all my kids every week, not just my wife every week. Now I'm going to date my kids, 7 of them. I mean, I did take some of them too out, double date, triple date. I did do that. But, they literally said, the teenagers said, Dad, we love you a lot. We do. We appreciate all the extra time you're giving us. Don't you have another book to write, though? And after 3 months, I'm like, what happened? I didn't even connect the dots between the two. Like, where did I get all this time? And then I connected the dots. And I remember calling Stan. I said, Stan, like, I just discovered this new natural law. He's like, what is it? I said, it's the 3-for-1 principle. And everybody else is like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. I'm like, I don't know. That's what happened. And I explained it to him. I said, yeah, it's the 3-for-1. And, I said a yes to everything. And then all of a sudden it's and then all of a sudden I have all this abundance of time. And he laughed and he says, are you familiar? He says, yeah, you just discovered the Mach 1 of time. I said, I don't know what that means. He said, you familiar with Chuck Yeager? And I said, yeah, he's the guy that, he's the first human being that ever broke the sound barrier. He says, yeah. He says, do you know the story behind it? And I said, I don't. And he said, yeah, Mark, other pilots had an opportunity to break the sound barrier. But when they got close to the speed, their plane started to shake like violently. So nobody's ever done that. Put 2 to 2 together. You're like, yeah, no, I mean, I'm not doing that. If it's shaking this much, intuitively, you're going to blow apart when you break it. Like, this is not going to go well. And he said a bunch of pilots had the chance to do it, but they always backed down because it got so violent. And Chuck Yeager trusted the integrity of the system. And he punched it through. He says, "Do you know what happened?" I said, "I don't." He said, "You know that little cloud around the plane?" I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "You punch through, you're going so fast that there's the resistance isn't at the tip of the plane, it's middle or end of the plane. You're going so fast, you actually take less fuel to go faster. It's counterintuitive, and everything smooths out." I'm like, "Dude, that's awesome." He's like, "Yeah, like you're the first human being that's broken the sound barrier on time. You found the sea." I'm like, "Holy cow, that is cool."
So, okay, so with that, like, how do you, because it's like, okay, so with him doing that, he had to have, you know, he had to be okay with dying. So
Yes.
he put everything at risk. I mean, I don't know if he had kids or if he had a family, but he probably had somebody that loved him. And so the risk of, he had to risk it all to get there. So how do you determine, like, if you think about that and risking, stuff with your family or whatever by just saying yes to everybody and everything. It's like, how do you determine, like, how do I determine when to do that, when to take risk, and just like, no matter, I mean, I don't know, did he ask the people around him, like, hey, what do you guys think if I, do this? And then, like, how do you determine when to do that to make, like, such significant breakthroughs? Does that make sense?
Totally.
Because then I think back of, like, when Jesus was here and he came and he, picked his 12 disciples. Like, I don't know that any of them, I mean, I don't think, I haven't read that any of them went home and asked their families. They just went.
So Chuck Yeager was married and had children before he broke the sound barrier. So October 14th, 1947. So when did Chuck Yeager divorce his first wife? February 26th, 1945. So 2 years before he broke the sound barrier. When did Chuck Yeager divorce his second wife? I don't know who that. He did not divorce his second wife. When did Chuck Yeager get married to his second wife? Holy cow. 2003. What? That's just fascinating. So, in answer to your question, Nora, I'd be really careful. I'd be really careful. Big time in it.
What makes you say that?
Um, because death is permanent physically, and marriages are important, and kids, and so
Right. What if his mission, one of the things that God put him on this planet to do was to break the sound barrier?
Right. And what if, one of his purposes, in this life was to get a divorce from his wife?
What if it wasn't?
But
I mean, it could be
see,
both of them.
I
What
can
if his
consider,
purpose wasn't?
I can consider, I'm a good student. See, good students, here's another thing. I hope you're taking good notes on it, because good students can consider somebody else's position. They're just not locked on their own. That's as a good student can consider it. They're willing to. People who aren't good students, they suck at students. Their reflex is, what if it's not? What if you're wrong? Well, what if you're wrong? Like they can't comprehend. So I would say, if somebody's not a good student, I'd be really, 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 really careful about taking risks that could blow apart your marriage and your kids and hurt a lot of other people. That's what I would do. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
No, I'm not saying not being careful. I'm just saying, like, what if his what if breaking the sound barrier was what he was put on this planet to do, and the divorce wasn't? Like, I don't know the story behind it.
So I think people that believe that they're put on this planet to do something, they need to be really, really careful. Because those people, like in Ford versus Ferrari, my daddy said that a man that loves what he does is the luckiest man in the world, because he'll never work a day in his life. There are some people, dang, I don't know if they're lucky or not, but they have to do something. And if they don't do it, it's going to drive them clean out of their mind. So, and then he says, and I'm like that, and I know one other man like that. And so for me, what about, yeah, it's hard, Nora. I mean, I didn't take that lightly. I measured the cost, considered it, looked at it, and I'm paying attention the whole time, and I'm listening to people. Like, a lot of times, I think it's not often, like Bill Gothard, he said it's the death of a vision, double death of a vision, triple death of a vision. I can relate to that. Alan Stein said, your life vision has, you've discovered it when you hate it, you run from it, you detest it, you despise it, and you can't escape it. I don't think you've ever experienced that, Nora. I have. And I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you would. I'm not saying Alan's right. I'm just saying that the people that are especially, and maybe those people that are like that, maybe they're just adrenaline junkies. Like what if you die, doing something you thought was God's will, like what you were put on this planet to do, and you stand before your creator and God's like, yep, nope, Nora, that was not what you were created to do. You were not to die that way. You were just being sloppy. You just messed up. And now your son and a bunch of other people. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can take my mind anywhere. I can consider, I think, anything. And I think that's healthy because then I can count the cost, because the Bible also said, consider the cost of building the tower. So I think a lot of people, their passions, they think their passion is their vision. I think their passions are a part of their vision. So I don't know. I think it's hard. I don't think it's easy. I think it's hard, really hard. And so the adversity that we have in life, is that the natural friction that that's there just because we're doing something hard? Maybe. Or is that friction there because we're not doing it right? Like a woman giving birth. It's going to be painful, sweetheart. It's just going to be painful. But you can put the mother can put her life and the baby's life at risk. And so that's where Lamaze class comes in, or older women teaching younger women, and saying, hey, you're going to feel like this, and you have to overcome your feelings for your own safety and the safety of somebody else. I mean, I'll never forget when you told me that those two pilots gave up their own life to save all, and they had a split second to do it. Now, obviously, you don't know that, and I don't know that. You have a better idea of it than I do, obviously, because you're a pilot, so it's split seconds. I mean, they obviously didn't know they were going to die, I'm guessing. But they probably, I mean, when you shared that, I'm like, I can see that. I mean, I can see that totally. So I think that, yeah, it's obviously we've gone way, way, way over. Hopefully it's good. These are good things. I think. I hope these are good things. I hope I can crack this code. When I look back, 12 years, and I see the models that I developed 12, even 20 years, 30 years ago, and I'm like, jeepers. But, that's the more you know, you don't know. And as soon as you solve this riddle, this problem, there's another bigger riddle, bigger problem. But hopefully that will be for the next generation. Anything else, Nora, you got?
No.
So it's pretty amazing. Elaine, anything you got?
Nope.
So why do you both continue to participate in your Voice in My Headset podcast?
Strive for higher thought and higher levels.
Okay, nice. Nora?
I'm not sure.
So if you have any questions, I mean, don't make as Norris is famous for saying, don't make the decision for other people. Like, you listen to this podcast, don't make the decision for other people. Just say, hey, I saw this weird, crazy podcast or whatever. And like Rosanna, when she was on at the beginning, she says, how do you have deep conversations? And so we gave her some input on that. I thought that was good. Another way to have deep conversations is have people listen to this, because it invokes, a lot of stuff. So if you have any questions, connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300, outside the US 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.